Education emergency. School officials from across the state are asking lawmakers to restructure their funding system now. They're urging Governor Perry to make school finance an emergency item, something they could begin tackling within the first 60 days of the legislative session. KXAN's political reporter Josh Hinkle has more.
Well, Leslie, it goes back to lawmakers cutting $5.4 billion from schools last session, and now a court decision saying that was unconstitutional. This week, Democrats are expected to push to add school finance to the legislature's fast-track agenda. If this doesn't happen, schools will have to wait a year or more for the outcome of that court appeal, stretching their money until then. Lawmakers aren't always able to stop by the classroom, so Greg Rake likes to bring it to them.
We are the ones in the trenches.
But imagine this special ed teacher's frustration when he travels 230 miles south from Abilene.
Seems like we can't really get an appointment with him.
And doesn't get to see the people choosing how much money schools get.
People look at the school districts before they move into a town.
He and hundreds of others from the Association of Texas Professional Educators want to explain what those decisions do to their districts.
Taking some of the money they say now we have in surplus and putting it back into education.
But when the door-to-door becomes face-to-face...
Great, so just come to the office and she'll be there?
Their ideas have a greater impact, like with their local representative, Susan King, who remembers Rake.
Counselor, teacher, minister, social worker, and used to be a babysitter for my children. So he has more stuff on me than you can possibly imagine.
A hook before their pitch. Fix the school finance system now instead of waiting for another court decision.
And that could be 1, 2, 3 years worth of children going through a system that's already broken.
Right now, as you know, funding for population growth is there, but it's at the levels that were there before during the decreased cuts.
Rick says at least they're getting answers and perhaps a little change.
It is frustrating, but it's got to begin somewhere, and they've got to hear our voice.
Even the state's commissioner of education says waiting is smart when it comes to even thinking about deciding to change the amount of money schools receive. Here's what he said this week on our political program, In Session In Depth.
Is that there's going to be a robust conversation among the legislators about funding for schools. But it just seems to me that the more prudent time for us to make those large funding determinations is after the Supreme Court has given us the final ruling in this case.
Now you can check out our full conversation with the commissioner at KXAN.com. Just search for the story on the legislature section of our homepage. In the studio, Josh Hinkle, KXAN News.
Thank you so much, Josh. House budget writers unanimously approved a bill today to pay for what the state owes from last session. The majority of the $4.8 billion will cover a Medicaid tab. The chairman says the bill must be on the governor's desk by March or many doctors and hospitals will not get paid. The money comes from a surplus the state had from last session, but it's not just Medicaid. Democrats say they'll try to restore money cut from education with this bill, too, before it goes to the full House for a vote.